Hey everybody, it's Marnie. Welcome back to another live event here today with one of our featured speakers from womenspeakers.com, Dr. Kay Julien. I'm so excited to have you here from Orlando, Florida. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, Marnie. Thanks. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And it's been a long time. I know we had you on the show years ago, and it's been fun to just connect again in this way. And this time to get to see you face to face is truly a joy.
Yes, that's right. We've done a lot virtually, just online and radio, and
Yeah.
this is fun. It's
Yeah.
fun.
And tell us a little bit. You have a history in psychology. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, actually, I have zeroed in on conflict and the human behaviors that go with conflict. I've ever since I can remember, I've been curious about how people work, why they do things, what goes on in them, what makes them tick. So it was a very natural thing to go into psychology. And then as time went on and I got more and more advanced degrees, I decided to really narrow my focus to how we talk to each other and try to love and get along with one another.
Well, that's great. And your ministry now is Stormbreaker Conflict Coaching.
Yes.
And I love that, Stormbreaker, because
Thanks.
there's a song, best-selling song a couple years ago was He's the Chain Breaker. And when I think of that Stormbreaker, he's the chain breaker, and then you help with the storms that come up, the conflicts.
Well, there is a little bit of a story there, but I'm not sure if we have time for it. Someday I'll tell the Stormbreaker story.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, today you are here to share with us some of your favorite aha moments with Jesus, some things that you've learned along the years that have really helped to change how you perceive life, your perspective of how to think about things. And so I want to just dive right into those. And so here's our first one. Don't believe the myth that conflict is nothing but sudden chaos. You have it in you to train that dragon. That one is loaded.
It is. It sure is. I think, just sort of simply put, when we think of conflict, especially in our families or at work or with our significant others, it does just seem like sudden chaos to us, because that's basically how we experience it. We're going along in the conversation, and then wham, it takes this turn, and so we think that is conflict. That's how it is. That's how it's always going to be. Just try to get through it. And unfortunately, the consequence of thinking that way is that we avoid it, right? And so we're not always honest with one another. We don't always address things that need to be addressed. But the truth is, as I've said, human behavior is human behavior. And so there's a science, there's research, there are patterns, there are predictabilities. It's not just this big blob of chaos. There really is a lot to know about it, so that we can learn things. We can develop mastery in that area. We can learn skills and study things and become proficient at being fearless at having those conversations on a natural level. And then, of course, on a spiritual level, we have the mind of Christ. We have Christ in us. We have his spirit of power and love and sound mind that we can that we are already equipped to tackle this with. And so we don't have to live like that. It doesn't have to be something that just throws us off and just try to heal from afterwards. We really can train that dragon. Yeah.
So if somebody is just conflict averse and it's like, oh my goodness, she's talking to me, I just completely avoid it every time. I just hate it. I just don't ever want to have this happen to me again.
Yeah.
Where would they begin? Like, what would be a first step?
Well, as I said, the very first thing is to understand that it doesn't have to be that way. And I'd say that one of the best first steps is to realize that one of the reasons why we feel that way about it is because we don't know what to do. We're afraid of it because we don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And so the first step is to learn something to do, because once you do, then the more and more things that you learn what to do in the situation, the more equipped you feel, and the less fearful you are.
That makes perfect sense. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's go on to number 2. As you're heading into battle, don't try to wear somebody else's armor. I love that.
Yeah, that's what I remind myself of frequently. Well, again, sort of staying in the scary conversation vein, just like anything that we feel like we have to face and we don't feel very equipped to do, we try to get some help. We try to get some information. Nowadays, we jump on the internet, right, and Google our problem and what we're looking for and how to handle it. Say you're a parent and you have to have a conversation with an adult child. And so there's a lot of information, a lot of good advice, a lot of instruction for how to execute perhaps what it is you're trying to do. But we frequently skip a very important step, and that is to stop and try those things on for ourselves, you know, and see how it fits, and if it's natural, and is there a way to make it our own? Because if it's a situation where it's really scripted, the other person doesn't know that script. And so if you don't have some natural maneuverability in the situation, then you won't feel successful, and it won't be successful. A really good example of this is David in the day of quiet. Yes, I love, because when Saul finally decided, okay, you can go fight this Philistine, what happened? Saul put all of his armor on David, right? His tunic, his shield, his helmet, his sword. And the scripture says that he couldn't even walk around. He's trying to walk around in this armor, and he couldn't even do that. And he said, I can't go into battle with this. I can't do this. This isn't something that's going to help me. This doesn't fit me. I know that this is not for me. And Saul was a huge guy. So we can't skip that step ourselves when we are trying to do things like that, to really find a way to make it natural, whatever in whatever endeavor, even if you're in business, anything that we're doing, we have to say, okay, this is their armor, and what fits me, what doesn't fit me, can I walk around in this, how will this be for me? And of course, on the spiritual plane, the Lord has armor that fits us all, and we want to pay particular attention to that too.
Yeah, no, right away the analogy of David came to mind too about that. And it's one of my favorite acronyms is BUSY, BUSY, best unique strategies for you, because it is so true that if you just try to do it like somebody else could do it, it's not going to work.
That's right.
But God, I love that phrase. But God is going to equip us to be able to walk through these things together with Him in just the right way that He created us to do. Okay.
Yes,
Number three, choosing to grant grace and mercy to another comes from a place of genuine strength. It is a compelling act.
Yes. Well, typically, when we think of trying to grant someone mercy or grace, they've offended us and it was really a mistake. They didn't mean to, or they want us to hear how sorry they are. We generally think that's sort of a weak thing to do. That we're letting go of our power, but the truth is, when we're in that position, we are operating from a deficit, because we hold on to that mercy or grace because there's some need in us that we want that person to fill. For example, say you're protecting your image, because if you let them off the hook, then they'll see you as weak or a pushover, and you really got to protect that image. So when you're in a place of wanting to protect that image, that's a big need. And so you are not free or open to doing anything else except protecting that image. It's kind of like if you've got some extra money at the end of the month and a financial need from one of your friends presents itself, you don't think twice about, hey, I got extra money, I'll share it with them. But if the same thing happens the next month and you are short, then you don't want to give them any money, because you need yours. And so when we can come to a place of security, and just say, and recognizing, hey, I can do this. This is not going to hurt me at all. And of course, most of all, if you're a Christian, to really understand how all of our needs are met in Christ, then we are in that place of surplus. We're in that place of, I can afford to grant you grace here. I don't have to get my pound of flesh from you, because Jesus will take care of me in that. And so we really, when we do that act, we truly are operating from that place of strength and power and abundance. And it's compelling because, well, we've all been there when we really wanted somebody to grant us mercy, and they have. The response that we feel is, oh, this is wonderful. What can I do? How can I? Because we have introduced the energy of love into the conversation and changed the energy there. And love is there, and love is always compelling. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it reminds me a lot of the thinking, of competition versus cooperation.
Yeah.
In a competitive relationship, if I give you some, that means I don't have enough, that I have it anymore.
Right.
But like we know, parents with children, when God gives us another child, somehow there's enough love for both children now, for all three or whatever.
Yeah.
It isn't a competition. It is cooperation. And that's true with that one too. Your next one kind of reminds me a lot of this first one. The next one is, reach out to the other person with compassion in the midst of an emotional conflict, and you will immediately change the direction of the conversation.
Yes. I know it's similar, but there's a subtle difference, because this is about taking an action when things are really getting heated up. Again, generally, we don't know what to do when that is starting to happen. And one of the most immediate ways to change the situation is to, as I said, reach out to the other person. Let's see if I can do a little visual. When we start talking to each other about something, we're sort of like this, and we're talking back and forth, and this is the way it goes. As we start to get more and more disturbed, we start to become more and more self-absorbed. We're justifying, we're defending, we're being aggressive about our agenda. And so we become like this, just completely separate and completely like every man for himself. And we pretty much stopped listening to each other. We're like this. Yeah. So if you can have the presence when you're going, I don't know what to do, this is going off the rails, to think, okay, stop and reach back out to that person. What have you done? You've completely changed this. You've changed the energy. You've changed direction. Again, you've interjected love into the conversation. And I'm not necessarily talking about, okay, now you just take on all the responsibility and start apologizing. It's something that just as simple as resisting being defensive and saying something kind. Like, say they're saying, you never listen to me, you just never listen to me. You just don't care about me. You always just think of yourself. And we naturally want to defend that, right? We naturally want to correct that image and correct that statement. But if we can, and that keeps us like this, right? But if we can think to say, that may be, but I'm listening now, and I'm caring now, and I want you to talk to me now. I'm here and listening, and looking them in the eye. It immediately changes the conversation. Doesn't necessarily. I'm not necessarily saying, okay, then it's good and it's over, but you change that energy to something positive. Again, that love. To actually take an action, to look at them and acknowledge something that they're going through.
I love that. Just bringing the compassion of Christ into the conversation. And I have this thing where I do, if I'm out of patience or out of love or whatever it is, I just say, God, I'm completely out of patience for this person right now, but you're not. So give me some of yours. Right. And then that's able to just flow through us right there in that moment. This time has flown by. How fun to have you here. Okay, thank you for coming and sharing with us. And you guys want to learn more about her, just go over to womenspeakers.com, Dr. K. Julien, otherwise stormbreakercoaching.com is where you can find her anytime. And I hope you all have a great day, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Marnie.